No matter how interesting it is from a scientific point of view, the change of state from a vapour to a liquid is, when you are camping, a pain. Condensation is inevitable when water vapour hits a cold surface. The vapour loses energy and changes state into a liquid. The point at which this happens is known as the dew point. Condensation makes everything wet. Wet stuff weighs more, wet stuff insulates less, wet stuff freezes. Condensation sucks. When you're camping, pretty much everything you do is going to make your closed microenvironment more humid and thus increase the potential for condensation, especially in winter. When you breathe, you expel water vapour. Wet snow in your tent will melt and evaporate during the day, and as it cools in the evening it will freeze on your inner tent before melting again the next day. It's that whole freeze-thaw cycle. Cooking inside your tent will create an uber amount of condensation. Damp gear will ooze water vapour as it dries. As you sleep, your body will lose water through insensible evaporation. This will end up in your sleeping bag. Yuck. We've seen that the side effects of condensation tends to be negative, especially in winter. We frequently get asked, I get condensation in my tent, what can I do about it? So what can we do about it? After all, we can't change the laws of physics. Breathing. Not much you can do about this. As far as I know, everyone has to breathe. However, a condensation panel inside your tent may help. Most tent inners are breathable, but you can also try to vent your tent. Pitch at 90 degrees to the prevailing wind and adjust your zips to create a flow of air. Of course, you have to balance the reduction of condensation with increased heat loss through air circulation. Wet snow in your tent will melt and evaporate during the day. As it cools in the evening, it will freeze on your inner tent before melting again the next day. Minimise this by brushing off snow before you get into your tent. Cooking creates an uber amount of condensation. Where possible, always try to cook outside of your tent. Storing wet stuff like socks or gloves in dry bags can let you keep things in your sleeping bag to stop them freezing during the night. When you sleep, your body will naturally perspire and all that sweat will end up in the insulation of your sleeping bag. If it is cold as soon as you get out of the bag, that perspiration will start to freeze, affecting your sleeping bag's effectiveness. By regularly airing your sleeping bag, you can minimise this build-up of moisture. All Alpkit sleeping bags have a black inner to absorb as much of the sun's heat as possible whilst airing. Well, hopefully these tips will reduce condensation in your tent and help you stay warm and dry.